Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a disassembly for you that I've waited for a while. This right here is the brand new Spyderco Military number 2. This is a brand new knife. It just released not so long ago, and it just hit retailers not so long after that, and that's where I picked one of these guys up. I purchased this guy on my own, and I want to thank my Patreon patrons, as well as actually Indiana Knives, who I bought it from, but for making this possible, although, to be fair, Indiana didn't know who was buying from him. Anyways, so this is a very interesting little piece, and I'm looking forward to getting inside it, taking it apart, and that's why I'm going to rush out the disassembly. You're going to see the disassembly long before the review is ready, because, well, I've just barely picked this guy up, but I wanted to do the disassembly quickly, and I wanted to get it out there so people can see what the inside of this guy looks like. My immediate concerns are the lanyard hole here. I'm afraid that this is going to be peened shut, so I'm going to be unable to remove the scales and or the G10 on the outside here. So that's going to need to be addressed. This knife is also currently configured for tip down, which... no. So I'm going to go on ahead and swap that over to tip up because I don't hate myself. And that'll also make it easier to get to the pivot here. And so that's a beautiful thing. And so we'll go on ahead and we'll start off by removing the clip screws here. And what we're going to see here is, well, so far so good. Right, take this guy off, and I'll leave the clip off for now, but that also gives us access to the other side of the pivot, which I think we were going to need anyways. So, this is a big old beefy pivot here. This is T10, maybe even T11. It's big. By the way, the centering was fine out of the batch, and the action on it was fine. So, that's good to know, and we can go from there. Since the pivot came out very nicely, with no real sign of setup thread locker, let's go on ahead and remove the clip screws here. These are T8. Oh, that one's Loctited. And, yeah, that is too. Okay. So, rather than dick with it, unfortunately, Spyderco's Golden, Colorado, USA Earth Factory tends towards the dramatic use of thread locker. So, to address that, I am going to go ahead and pull out this little guy. If you're curious, by the way, about this or any of the tools I'm using, nickshabazz.com/tools has a full list of everything. But I'm going to go on ahead and use this guy, and the reason is that this gives me a little bit more torque, right? Yeah, and when I do that, I am able to rotate it loose, and hopefully, yeah, only one side is rotating. Beautiful thing. And once I've broken that thread locker, I can get in here with a regular driver and pull that loose. So T10 looks like for the pivot, T8 for these screws here, and T6 for the clip screws. I'll go ahead, and I'm kind of removing these in an order. There, and let's go on ahead, and, oh, nope, that guy needs some thread lock removal too. There we go, beautiful. And actually, I'm feeling the knife as I'm unloosening that, that would technically mean tightening. As I'm loosening that, I'm feeling the knife wanting to come apart anyways, so hopefully that means things will want to come apart. So, right now, all the screws are off, but it appears that the lanyard hole is peened open, which means this is going to be a little bit more of a pain than I had hoped. But luckily, what I should be able to do, if a man can dream, is exactly this. What I just did there is I pinched the compression lock. When I did that, it made it fall into this little gap area here. And when I did that, that allowed me to lift the whole knife scale back this direction. If I were replacing the scales on this guy, then I would absolutely have to remove the lanyard hole from the G10 here. But I'm not, so I can get away with doing exactly what I did there, and we can do the disassembly and maintenance just fine. So what we're going to see here is... what is this? So I'm curious what this gray streak here is, and whether it's going to come off. If I didn't know any better, it almost looks like there's a coating of some variety on the area where the pivot, where the detent ball goes. There's also a little detent ball ramp, which is nice, right there. But, yeah, let me see if I can zoom in. See? Little coating, little ramp. That's not entirely shocking to me. I mean, it's not something I think I've seen on a Spyderco before, ever, but this is also the first Spyderco I've looked at in a couple of years, because it's the first new model of any import. Anyways, I digress. But it wouldn't shock me that they were doing a coating there, because that would reduce the friction, right? A lot of coatings are able to reduce friction there. And so it's a little weird that they're just DLCing that one little bit, if that is a DLC. But it could be that they are simply trying to reduce friction, in which case that's actually kind of cool, right? That's a strong move. What I'm also going to do is remove the other side of the pivot screw here, and then that'll allow me to take this guy out. And this is, by the way, a pivot bushing style thing, where it is pinching the washers between it, so the washers are actually a little bit smaller than the pivot. Not by a huge variety, that is the hole in the washers. But that is nice, and it allows you to tighten it down relatively fully and get good action and whatnot. It's built like a PM2, actually. In a lot of ways, looking at this knife, this is a very big PM2. This should surprise roughly nobody, because the Military 2 is designed to be sort of a compression lock knife, which it is, right? We've got the compression lock here, where this little bar moves over between this pin and the blade to lock the knife shut. But anyways, this feels like it is a PM2. It just happens to be bigger. It happens to be longer. It happens to be more militaristic, if you will. So, cool. All right, going to go ahead and put some, not thread locker on here. I'm going to go ahead and put some oil on here. I'm using some 10-weight KPL, knife pivot lube. But at the same time, any of your dedicated knife lubricants should work just fine for you. Once I have done that, I'm going to go ahead and put back in the pivot screw. And I'm going to do that using a little bit of Loctite on a stick here. Go ahead and put that on there. It looks like they are using some kind of a blue thread locker. Could be blue Loctite, could be something else. But I'm going to go ahead and tighten the pivot down here. And I'm not going to tighten it completely yet, because I'm going to need to adjust it anyways. But there is that. Let's see here. Next up, I am going to go ahead and drop the blade right back onto here. The one thing I haven't done, well, actually, that'll happen naturally. If I put a little bit, I was going to say I hadn't lubricated the pivot hole itself, but if I put a little bit of lubrication kind of at the interface between that should get in there naturally. So that's nice. Beautiful, very smooth. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is lay down a little bit of lubrication here. That should more than suffice. Rotate, rotate, rotate. Okay, so now at this point, we're actually almost done here, right? This is pretty straightforward because I don't have to remove the lanyard hole. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to pinch the compression lock in. I'm going to lower this whole situation down, 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 until everything sort of snaps into place. Now, at this point, what I want to do is I want to visually look in there and make sure my washer is still in place. And indeed, it still is. So that's good, because you do want that washer in there. Without it, the action is going to be hot garbage, as the French would decidedly not say. They would probably say it was garbage hot in French. Anyways, I digress. So, so now we've got everything sort of put back together here, right? The action is a little fit and starty, but that's okay, because I need to tune it, and I also need to install this screw and this screw. So let's go ahead and do that now. Grab my T8 driver, and grab a little bit of thread locker, and go ahead and put this screw in. This screw, if this is anything like the Spyderco PM2, if you over-tighten this screw or its corresponding screw on the other side there, you have a bad time. It can actually influence the action negatively. So do be careful about that. And if you're trying to, mess with the pivot screw and you can't get your action okay, it's probably because you over-tightened one of these guys. And that will put a separate pinch in some place that you don't want there to be a pinch, so to speak. So that's a problem. Okay, so now, actually I'm going to put the clip on just to make my life a little bit easier as I'm adjusting things. So I'll go ahead, grab my clip screws here. It doesn't matter in practice, but it does make the knife maybe a little easier to grip, and it'll feel a little bit more natural to me to have the knife with the clip on there. There we go. That's in like this. This option to go to a tip-up carry is one of the big features of the military too, at least as far as those of us who are not preferentially tip-down carriers tend to feel. There are many people who enjoy tip-down carry. I do not understand those people, but that's perfectly fine. If you carry tip-down, let me know in the comments who hurt you. Sorry, that was a joke. Let me know in the comments what advantages it offers for you. I'm yet to find any, but that's okay. I don't need to, and the nice part about it is that this knife offers the 4 positions, right? So you can do right side tip up, which is how I've got it configured, or tip down, or left side tip down, or left side tip up. It's really nice to have those options. Okay, so right now, out of the box, where am I at? Well, not out of the box, this is out of the jackass. Not out of the jackass. That would be really painful. Instead, out of... Okay, it's not out of anything. It's right here. Let's move on. Anyways, we are... where are we at here? There's no blade play. The action is pretty smooth. Right now, the blade, though, is favoring the show side a little bit. And that's interesting. What I'm thinking is maybe this, if we adjust these 2 screws here, we can work through this. Okay, by loosening that screw on this side, now the compression lock is going to be pressing the blade the other direction, right? And so actually, let me see if I can show this off on camera. What I'm going to do here is loosen I'm going to tighten the pivot, and you're going to watch the blade centering change just a little bit. No, it'll make sense if I do it on this side. Can I? Okay, here goes. We're going to try screwing something in with my left hand. Okay, if I loosen that, are you seeing the shift? No. Okay. Well, it turns out I am unable to show off what I'm doing here. Right now, I've got both sides fully torqued down, and that's not amazing. Just kind of bending a little bit, seeing where we're at. Actually, that might have been a little extra tension in there. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is loosen maybe this side a touch, tighten this side a touch. Okay, now we are pretty damn close to centered. Where's our action at? That's pretty good, actually. I'm going to go ahead and go to my T8 here. That's fully tightened. And that's never been loosened. I kind of want this action to be a little bit looser. Yeah, tightening that made it a little too tight. So let's go on ahead and just a little scotch looser. It was a big scotch there. Scotches, of course, are should have given a pico scotch and ended up giving a micro scotch. There we go. That was, yeah. Scotch as SI unit. New unit just dropped. All right, where are we at here? No blade play. Very nice loose action. Little tiny bit of lock stick here. Just a touch. Just a scotch. Did I oil the detent ball? I don't feel like I did. This actually could be a part of my problem. And unfortunately, on a compression lock knife, that becomes much more difficult to do. Because the detent ball lives deep inside that little cave there. With a needle tip applicator, though, I think I can get in there. And I'm not sure I'm going to be able to show you all this. No, I can't. But what I'm doing is I'm taking this applicator clip and I'm going inside that little area because I've already got it adjusted where I need it. And I'm going to look in there actually using a flashlight. Yeah, okay, I just put way too damn much lubrication on that. Can you see? There's your detent ball. And behind it, there is a elephant's foot of lubrication in there, which is excellent. But either way, The tent ball is now well freaking lubricated. That's for damn sure. Yeah, okay, good. That's dispersed. Not my best moment, but then again, I am X on Shabazz after all. And now we are at a place where I think this knife is back together comfortably. The centering is maybe a little tiny bit off. That could be the nature of how I've got it adjusted here. Can I maybe, if I tighten that a little bit, that should reduce the force, and then, yeah, just a little off. Where are we at now? Still no. Oh no, little tiny bit of play. Okay. Let's tighten this up a couple of nano scotches. No, still some play. There we go. All right. We are good to go. So, turns out the military 2 is basically a paramilitary 2, except, well, bigger. This is a big beefy boy, but internally they are basically the same knife. There is not, at least at a first observation, not substantial difference in there. The coating on the inside of the detent ball path is interesting. I'm sure it looks like a coating, but, you know, I'd be very curious to hear more about that. But aside from that, yeah, that was easy enough, and there you go. Hope this has been interesting to you. Like I said, it's going to be a little while before you actually see my review of this knife, because I want to actually, you know, carry it, spend some time with it, right? But I did want to get this disassembly up there quickly for folks who are really curious about the internal constructions of it, as well as, well, wanted my first impressions, which are largely positive. This is a Spyderco Military with the concomitant gigantic freaking slicey blade, and it also happens to be better because it has a compression versus liner lock, and I think that is a strict upgrade here. And it offers tip-down carry, which is crucial. That was a this kills the crab sort of moment for the military one for me. So yeah, so far so good. I don't know that I'm a fan. It's huge, but at the very least, I think they've done a good job here. So, anyways, there you go. Hope this has been interesting to you. Thank you again to my patrons who make it possible for me to just pick one of these guys up. And hope this has been interesting to you and that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.